I love you guys.
Dance off, bro. I have the high ground.
Expecto Patronum!
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor. Tribe of Nerds.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. Cameron and I are back to talk about Survivor 47, episode 2. Very eventful second episode. I think for me, this really felt like it was like one of the best episodes of the new era. Felt like it was getting back to how Survivor should be. And like I guess 2 episodes in, I'm really enjoying this season so far. What about you, Cam?
I am loving Survivor 47. The cast is honestly a standout to me. I didn't know how I felt about them on the cast reveal, but with 2 episodes in, they're very lively, very fun. It's not cringy. I'm loving the editing. I don't know if it's because of the longer episodes and they knew they were going to have longer episodes, but I absolutely adore the cast so far. There's nobody who's standing out to me where I'm like, oh, you suck. I don't like you. I'm not rooting for you. Even though Andy's a little all over the place, it's still an entertaining aspect of him to watch.
Yeah, I won't lie. Like at this point, I'm dealing with the fact, like, I guess if out of the last few seasons that we've had this train wreck type of player, that Andy is probably the best of that group. So I'm not pissed off at him like I was with like Banu or Q last season. So yeah.
And since the same tribe didn't lose twice, maybe we won't have a disaster tribe for once.
Yeah, I was very happy that Gata didn't just lose yet again, because again, we've also had that at least the last 3 seasons, I think, where a tribe loses a bunch and either one person from that tribe still ends up winning or like the last 2 end up going super far. So it's nice for something different to happen. So, but let's get into it. I think we got to start at the tribe that just went to tribal council. We have Gata, and let's talk about the dynamics that are there in this episode. This is where Andy finds the tribe's beware advantage. Is I think maybe one of the first people to not actually take it. And I'm just like, I mean, at this point, everybody takes it. I said to my parents, and then he didn't take it. I was like, oh, that's different. And then, yeah, then Sam ends up swiping it from under Andy's nose, so and finds the idol. So let's talk that through.
I will say the beware advantage by this point should have had other consequences than just losing your vote, because it's a beware advantage. You'd think there would be other reasons as to why not to take it. But 7 seasons in, you can expect that the beware is going to be, you're going to lose your vote until blah, blah, blah happens.
Right.
So for Andy in his position that he was currently in, I can't rationalize at all why he wouldn't take the beware advantage. He doesn't need a vote. He knows all the votes are probably for him, like from what's going on. But to be fair, his tribe is clapping for him now when he's cutting coconuts. They're cheering for him. So in his head, maybe he thinks, oh, thank God I brought this up because now I'm back in the group. So he thinks maybe having a vote would put him in a better situation in the game. But personally, I mean, as a viewer, we know he's on the outs. He's the person they're all going to vote for. So watching him put that shit down, and then of all people for Sam to come and get it, right when Andy decides, you know what, I made a mistake. I will go get that advantage. Brother, oh my gosh. Cinematic gold. Poor Andy. Like, my heart broke for him, but I loved watching it.
Yeah. I loved even the editing where he's like, you know, oh, I must have missed it. I must have been looking at a different branch or whatever. Just cannot find it. It's
the realization that he is looking at the right branch eventually, and it's like, it's not here. And then he knows that since it's such a small tribe, like if it was 2 tribes and he had like 8 other castmates to pick from, it would be harder to decipher who took it. But of the 4 people he went to, he went to the one person who had it and blamed the other 3. that probably got it. And it's just so unfortunate because information is so much power in Survivor, and Sam is just sitting on the gold mine.
Yeah, to be fair, it actually might have just put Andy as someone that Sam wants to work with. He said like he wants to keep Andy around now, and especially with leading into next week, we see that Annika's a little bit off her rocker and is going to accuse Sam and Sierra of dating just because they're an attractive guy and an attractive girl. um,
I mean,
that are
sowing the seeds of doubt into anybody's relationship in the game benefits you. But again, in the smaller tribes, it's hard to get away with it if you're caught.
yeah. But I guess that'll be something to discuss next week when we actually see it happen. But
Yeah, for sure.
um, but yeah, no. So Sam does find his tribe's beware idol with Sierra. Well, it was with Annika at first,
He,
and
he
then
actually included every single person on the
yes,
tribe except Andy in the retrieval of the idol, so they all feel good with him. And I
right,
think that's a really hard thing to do because they all seem fine with it. Nobody's like, oh, he showed me this part. Oh, he helped me with this part. They're all like super close with Sam now, which is like it could have went either way, and I'm glad that it like worked out for him. Sam's an entertaining person so far in the season, and for being the youngest person, I think on this cast, is he? I think so.
he's 24, so he might be. I'm trying to think if there's anybody that was like younger than him, but you
But
might be right.
regardless, I am impressed with his early days in the game so far. And I
Yeah,
think the rest of his tribe is almost fading into obscurity a little bit. Like we're not seeing a lot of Sierra, we're not seeing a lot of Annika. Like I think Annika had like one scene where she called Andy a creepy ex-boyfriend vibes,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is like good. You got a confessional and stuff, but I feel like the yellow tribe is really focusing on Andy and Sam for right now. And
yeah,
oh my God, Rachel, a standout choice. It sucks that she's
yeah.
gone that tribe. It feels like it's gonna fizzle out, but we'll get to the iconic moment of the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, I do like Rachel. We'll definitely talk about her more soon. But yeah, so then over on Lavo, we have Rome going crazy as well. Rome is just going so many miles a minute. He is talking about how he's going to be Jeff Probst's next co-host on the On Fire podcast, which is
We
not
can all
something
dream.
which clearly Jeff Probst was ended up being fine and leaving it in the episode. I think he talked about it on his podcast, but I can't remember why he said he decided to leave it. But like you told me off air, like Rome probably doesn't do well. So
Yeah, because I just don't think you leave something in an edit, and it was edited in a way that didn't make it believable. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm
yeah,
gonna be the next co-host." The music did not line up with that. It was making a joke of this comment. So I think the overall payout is that he will not be on Jeff Rose podcast because he does not do well enough in the game. And while I love his energy, you have to like temper who you are a little bit. You can't be that excitable these early days. People are starving and annoyed and they're all figuring out the game. And if you are that big of a standout person, that's not only like a big personality, but you're standing out to the entire tribe. They're all watching you 24/7. And it's not like you're building these bonds with people. You're building them through your acts of like laughter and moonwalking and stuff. And while it can be entertaining, it can also be annoying when things are going on. So he seems like an early choice if they were to say go to tribal council, even though both me and Jake are repping red shirts today.
yeah, I mean, Lavo's won two in a row. They seem to be the dominant tribe this season, but that can all change. And I feel like a lot of the times the dominant tribe ends up falling apart at the merge. So like, I honestly am looking to them falling apart completely at some point.
The problem with winning up until the merge is that you never have that vote. You never have to test your allies, so you really don't know where people stand. So when you finally get to the merge, if there has been that person you want to target, you finally have the numbers to do it and you do it. But then the rest of your tribe figures out where all the lines are, and then they all turn on each other, and you obviously use the disaster tribe's numbers to like, and then it's just a battle between numbers at that point. But I hope that tribal lines just get absolutely obliterated this season. I would love just people to play an individual game when they get to the merge and not be like, oh, we got to stay Reba strong,
Yeah, yeah.
Lavo strong.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like yeah, because we New Era, we've had quite a bit of that where we see yeah, just one tribe completely pick off the other ones. I mean, Reba, Tika, yeah, there's quite a few of them that have done that. Um, so yeah, then Rome finds the box and opens it and decides he's gonna tell Teeny about the clue, which good for Teeny that she's able to be this person that people are willing to approach for all of this. But then Teeny decides to tell Kashawn, who she's actually working with, and the next day they go and open up the box, and Rome comes strolling up and sees them both at the box. That was one of the funniest moments for me as well. Is just like, I mean, what is to be going through your mind if you are walking up and seeing two people opening like your advantage without you? Like it's so
Yeah,
funny.
they're bonding over the thing that you were trying to use to gain trust with them, but now you know
Mhm,
you can't, and it didn't barter any trust because she clearly told Keyshawn about it.
mhm.
And while that's a highlight for Keyshawn's game, he's getting told about this stuff. It's a negative point for both Rome and Teeny because Teeny got caught, kind of thing. So I feel like
Yeah.
it's even more evidence that Rome is going to have to get cut just due to the relationships he has with these people. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting there. So I mean, we've seen a little more of Kashawn. We have seen Teeny and obviously Rome and a little bit of Asia, and then Seoul and Genevieve are like completely silent so far.
Yeah,
Uh
they gave us some narration during the challenge, but like other than that, we haven't really seen a lot of them. And it could just be the fact that they're on the Red Tribe, which we're just not privy to seeing due to their challenge performances.
yeah.
Um, but they're both people I was very interested in pre-game.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
do hope they get more screen time because I think they can bring it. But it is always concerning when you're not getting those early confessionals.
Yeah, I it's concerning for sure because like then you're like I mean they've under edited winners before even, but like I feel like
Erica.
this yeah,
Sorry, I think something
I
was stuck there. A little 41 or something like that.
yeah, yeah. But I think at this point, after 41's fiasco editing, like I feel like they know, I guess, what they're doing with editing like finalists or the winner.
Yeah.
So I would think at this point, Sol and Genevieve are probably not winning the season. But
I don't mind the Erica thing because
mhm,
it subverts our expectations in an okay way. You know,
mhm,
if we had Erica narrating the whole season, the hourglass thing would have pissed us off even more. It was the fact that she was an under the radar player that got the opportunity that kind of like it helped with the overall storytelling of her season, I think.
mhm.
And plus she kept talking about like a lamb turning into a lion, so it makes sense that she was like slow start and then like rose at the end kind of thing to cut out the big threats of the game.
Right.
But I like not knowing who the winner is going into like the finale episode with like six people. I loved that. And
Mhm.
a good example is 43-2. Nobody expected that outcome with the six that went into the finale.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that because I had no idea how that was going to play out. I was rooting for different people from the start of that episode to the end. You know, you
Mhm.
watched the front runners of like Carla, Jesse go, and then you really thought it was going to be Owen or Cassidy, and then it's Gabler. Um, but here, I wouldn't mind if like Sol or Genevieve won, especially if they start getting more clips. I
Yeah.
don't like when it's just the first confessional of the season is the person who narrates the whole thing and then wins. It's a little boring to me in a competition reality show.
Right.
It should be like almost evenly across the board, but obviously that can't happen with a bunch of big personalities that they throw on Survivor. You're going to have people doing all sorts of things to get screen time.
That's true. I mean, we'll have to see. I don't, maybe we'll get a lot more content from the two of them moving forward. Who knows? It's only been two episodes.
Yeah.
So then we get to Tuku, and this is the tribe that is going to go to tribal council, so we'll get to them after the challenge. But before the challenge, we see that TK, Tiana, and Kyle are supposedly this three on the tribe, and they want to pull in Gabe to do the guys and Tiana. which is end up blowing up in TK's face completely. But I found that interesting, and that Sue and Caroline are completely on the outs, I guess, because they're kind of the quote unquote weaker people, I guess, according to TK at least.
Like I can see from TK's perspective as an athlete,
Mhm.
like Caroline is very small, shy, and timid. So living with her for a couple days, he probably notices that she's very quiet and shy, which is a totally fine aspect for her.
Mhm.
But we know she's athletic because she plays water polo. We know she's
Yeah.
great in the water. And I mean, maybe she just hasn't had the opportunity to show those talents. But I think his read on Sue was super weird because as an older woman, the oldest woman on the cast, she's buff. Like she is
Yeah.
very fit. And watching that challenge, she's putting her back into pushing these things and getting through. And I think it's just his perspective as an athlete. He sees like a men and like a younger woman to be a stronger person to have. But as the strongest person on the tribe, you shouldn't be trying to just like rally up all the strong people because that isn't a good look. Because then you're very much segregating yourself into one kind of archetype.
Yeah, you're making yourself the ringleader of something that like you're drawing more attention to yourself. So in that
And
way.
from the start of him building that alliance before the challenge, we already heard Tiana's thoughts that she was like, I don't have great vibes with TK, but I'm fine rolling with how this like plays out. Like she was fine going and working with them, but she didn't inherently want to if she had a choice.
Right. We do hear also that everybody seems to like Kyle, though. I mean, there were literally people saying in confessionals that they love Kyle. So,
He's just a family man. He's a blue
yeah.
collar family man. He's super kind and nice. He's a vegan. I mean,
Mhm.
he's eating on the show, but good for him. I mean, that's tough, but you're doing
Mhm.
it for other reasons than just yourself and your morals kind of thing.
Mhm.
I like Kyle.
Yeah.
I had Kyle on my draft and I ended up trading him for Rachel. So I hope he doesn't win for that purpose. But if he does win, I'm very happy with him because I like him as a person more than a character on the show already. I feel like he's not playing up to be anybody but himself. Like we're seeing Kyle for who Kyle is, and that's like more rare on the show to get that genuine person because everyone's trying to like play the biggest part of themselves. And Kyle's like, I'm here for my family. I'll eat
Yeah.
this crap because I want to get to the end and win the money for my family.
True.
Good for Kyle.
Yeah. I
That's
do
my
like
confessional for Kyle.
I do like Kyle a lot too. And like I feel so bad. We'll get to the end of the episode where his reaction to the blind side is just like, no. Like he's so sad about
He looks like a little puppy. I'm like, oh, Kyle, I'm sorry you were left out.
and we'll talk about that at the end. I think we can talk about like what, his path moving forward is going to be, but we'll get to that later. Let's get to the immunity challenge, which is going to be the shoving the rice through and then getting it cut open and then solving the puzzle. And basically, the tribes are pretty even, or it's moving the ball up the snake puzzle. Sorry. But the tribes are pretty even. There wasn't like one that was lagging behind like there has been in the past few seasons.
Yeah.
So I was very happy Gata again did not lose again, and so Tuku ends up narrowly losing, and you get the outburst from TK of basically calling out his tribe for being too happy about losing. Basically, a very pointed comment at Tiana because she's just a very happy, smiley person, even in negative times. So at this point, I mean, clearly this is not something you do is basically call out your tribe after a challenge. I think that is a very uh, big no-no on Survivor.
Yeah, like I'm sure it's stressful to be losing that challenge, but you don't have to necessarily act out or be upset. Like you can still like be stressed, but um optimistic,
Mhm.
which is I think what she was doing. And like she wasn't what she was saying was like I'm not happy about it, but you can still smile and talk about
Right.
it. As like I smile and talk about things. He's like, "Oh, I hate that we lost, but here we go. This is where the game really starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
if
this
TK
is
turned around and was like, "Stop being so happy," I'd be like, "Excuse you?"
so then we get back to camp. And so we've also seen here TK is keeping Sue awake, preventing her from sleeping because he talks too much, which is really funny, honestly. And then at one point we get back to camp and Tiana's talking to Kyle, right? And they're talking and TK walks up on them talking about his attitude, and he's like, "You talking shit about?" Again, people just walk up on each other talking shit or looking at other people's advantages. This is wild.
It's got to be like one of my favorite things in Survivor. They do kind of a similar thing with this episode where like they talk about someone and then it cuts to that exact thing happening, that conversation happening. But better than that, I love when the conversation is currently happening and that character enters the frame, in some way or another. Like, I love when they're talking about someone and that someone is just so close to the conversation being held. I can't even remember the one time it happened, but it was so amazing. They were talking by the water and this person came and like filled up a canteen and they were talking about him right there. I'm pretty sure it was Edge of Extinction. Yes, it was. They were talking about Joe and Joe was standing right next to them, like next to Victoria. And I love that shit. So TK walking up like, "You talking shit about me?" Hilarious, iconic, love it. Thank God.
Yep, yep. And then also we have Gabe on this tribe decides he wants to get with Sue and Caroline, which is interesting because he goes up to Caroline and is giving her this information, and we hear from her like, "I don't have a working relationship with Gabe," but then all of a sudden, they do build that enough to where they are now working together.
I think it's the fact that Carolyn probably realized, oh, I'm not really working with anybody else other than Sue. I might as well work with Gabe if he's trying.
Right.
But I think it's funny that her first reaction was like, "I don't really have trust with you, so I'm not going to work with you." And it's like the next time we see them, they're working together. So we clearly missed like something there, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was probably like Sue being like, "I want to work with Gabe" or something,
And then Caroline's like, "Well, I want to work with Sue, so I guess I'm working with Gabe and Sue."
Hey, you got to do what you got to do in this game.
Yeah, yeah. So then they basically are trying to rope Tiana in as their fourth vote to get TK out, which, again, looking at this, I'm like, this would be crazy, especially in the new era, for a physical player to go out second. Like, we've never really had this before, at least in the new era. It's usually someone that's physical ends up staying because they're a physical asset. Because Jeff literally created some of the stuff in the new era because he wanted to help the more physical people and the providers and stuff. So he was like, he's been weighing things heavily towards that section of Survivor. And I guess now that we're getting to the tribal council, seeing like we're losing TK here, a physical player, is just it's very refreshing for Survivor to see that and just like know that just because you're physical does not mean like that's at all the best way to do well in this game.
What I will say is something I really don't like about the new era is Jeff like putting the wrong focus on what he thinks is entertaining in the game.
Yeah.
The danger is not entertaining in the game. Nobody's like taking screenshots and videos of the danger of them not eating food and you taking their flint away. That's how we get disaster tribes. They keep losing their flint. They can't eat. They can't provide for themselves. So they're deteriorating and they keep losing. It's because you're taking their shit away. They don't have a pot. They don't have flint. They don't have anything. And it keeps happening. And that's the wrong focus. We're interested in the strategy and the social dynamics and like challenges. All that stuff is what's entertaining to the audience. But making the like, I know it's Survivor, but they were struggling when they had rice. They were struggling when they had food. You know what I mean? And reward challenges were still more prevalent when they had all of those things. Now, in the new era, we get longer episodes, but there's not even 2 challengers. There's not reward challenges anymore. So they're just struggling for no reason. There's no rewards. There's no rice. And even when they try and take rice, they get blasted for it.
Yes, we should talk about that real quick too. Almost forgot. Yeah, so Rachel pockets some rice, which I was like, as soon as they showed that, I'm like, that's probably going to come into play here shortly. That she is going to get called out by Jeff or something. And so then Jeff, of course, calls her out after the challenge that he noticed. I'm assuming production noticed, and then Jeff was told about it.
They filmed that shit on cue.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like it would have been way better if she had just gotten back to camp and then we get a quick cut of her pulling out all the rice from her pockets and her tribe's just cheering and is excited about it. Because people used to take stuff from reward challenges all the time to bring it back. Why are we? It's rice, and everyone else had the same opportunity at that huge bag of rice in front of them. They should have taken advantage of it. Honestly, you should have hid an advantage in the rice, because like someone's up there and they're cutting open the bag. If they see something in there, do they take it in front of their whole tribe? That's the real beware advantage idea. But Rachel, like, what an icon, because watching that, I was like that's so entertaining. Get that rice, girl. Get that rice back to your tribe. Jeff calling it out was almost like a boo, but
I know.
also entertaining. But I almost feel like it's unnecessarily putting a target on Rachel for the other people that don't know her, you know?
Right. Yeah, it definitely is a little bit. I feel like they didn't have a rule that explicitly said they couldn't do that. So of course Rachel's going to try. I think if they really didn't want that to happen, they probably should have explicitly stated it. So, but yeah, unfortunately she has to hand the rice back. All right, let's talk about this this TK blindside. And so it's a 4-2 vote. And going in, we think there's a possibility that it's going to be a tie, and it could go to Rocks at the second tribal council. Wouldn't be the first time ever, because Survivor South Africa had a rock draw in episode 2 in one of their seasons.
Me personally, I'm surprised in the whole new era of only 3 tribes that we're not getting more rock draws, because the numbers are so small. But it could just be like pact mentality, right? Like if I'm on this tribe, I don't want to go, right? I want to make it to the merge, so I'll just do whatever would get me there. But I do wish there were more ties, because it would make more sense with these smaller tribes kind of like clashing against each other in such small numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just people kind of actually playing scared sometimes, and with such small tribes. And with all these advantages, and now like people I feel like are now willing to play bigger because they're learning they shouldn't just play scared. And so Gabe is going to also play his idol that he did extend. I wasn't sure at first because my dad was asking the same thing. He's like, wait, did they extend it or not? And he thought it was just the one-time use because he forgot that Gabe extended it last week as well. But no, I think we talked about it off air of like, was this a good move? And I know you'll share your thoughts on this, but the one thing that I'll say, I think it's better to misplay an idol than go out with one in your pocket. And then the other thing is that if you're going to go to Rocks, you don't know if Tiana's on your side to vote this round. Why not prevent yourself from getting rocked out? Like,
precisely. I think it was a great move. If I was Gabe, I'd do the exact same thing. And in these smaller tribes, at the second tribal council, you don't want to be the second person voted out for one thing. So that's already a reason to play your idol. Plus, it might tie and go to Rocks. So you could be completely safe in that regard. And he wasn't really in a great position to begin with. So he could have just been having the wool pulled over his eyes and get blindsided just as hard as TK. It's almost more believable to maybe him that he was getting blindsided over their major physical threat who would help them win challenges, TK, right? And while he could potentially trust Sue, Caroline has done nothing but show that she probably didn't want to work with him. So it's better to temper your expectations and play an idol on yourself and take your own back rather than put your trust into these 3 individuals that could easily just have a split-second decision to blindside you in the moment. So I think overall covering his bases on all regards was good. And everybody knew he had it. So having that off of your back, so 1, they're not going to target you to flush it. And 2, it's just gone. It's fine. You're not a threat anymore. Now you're just back to that person that's part of the group. I liked that move a lot.
Yeah, I was also thinking, oh, what if he plays it for Sue? I mean, because that's another option. We've seen people play it for others to gain trust, especially sometimes not that when that person's name hasn't even come up. I'm thinking of AK, an Australian survivor, played it for Jared in his first season at like the first tribal council just to gain trust, and it worked. So it can happen.
One thing I wish like did happen is like I do still feel like the three tribes is dragging the new era down a little bit, especially with how many things can make you lose your vote. So like you're already in a small tribe of like 4 to 6 people if your tribe's doing okay. And then two of them lost votes because one of them say like used their shot in the dark and can't vote. One person has a beware advantage and can't vote. This person went on a journey and can't vote. So you could have a tribal council with 2 votes at like the second tribal council. But if you had a group of 10 people, that doesn't matter as much. And there still more big things can happen. I feel like it's like halting the gameplay a little bit. It's like less entertaining to watch them blindside somebody like TK because it's just one conversation that needs to happen instead of like 6 to get a whole group of people in on it.
Mhm.
So that's what I think. But I like Sue. I think Sue is playing a great social game. She's in a great position right now, especially after TK. But I think TK kind of cornered himself. Like it wasn't even other people's fault. It's TK for how he approached the game.
Yeah.
And that's completely understandable. But what it was kind of thrown out of left field is when he like asked everybody to raise their hands if they've had a conversation with Sue. Like I'm sure everybody there has had conversations with Sue in the 3 to 6 days that you've already been on the island.
Right. Right.
Maybe you haven't, but like that was such a weird moment. And then to like explain the social game to Sue, like she has never seen Survivor, and then him
Yeah.
getting blindsided is just such a cherry on top of the whole situation. So overall, a great tribal council and outcome because it's not something we see very often with like 2 men going home either back to back
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
first tribals.
Yeah, yeah. I think the last time this might have happened in US Survivor at least was in Cagayan. There's probably a couple other seasons in between there that had 2 men going in a row, but that's the one that comes to mind.
I'm pretty sure there's only been 3 instances of 2 men going home as the first 2 tribals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cagayan is one of them. I know that. So, yeah, I mean, really fun episode. I'm interested to what's gonna happen next. Kyle getting left out and blindsided. I think Kyle can rebound because he's such a nice guy, and I don't.
Everybody loves Kyle on his tribe.
Yeah.
I think they want to rope him in, but they knew that because he's a nice guy and he was close with TK, that the best chance for a leak was coming through Kyle. So if you have the votes in the numbers, there was no need to include him in that vote or decision, and you can just sew the trust back in with him afterwards.
Yeah, I actually think maybe Tiana could be in danger a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, it's gonna depend how this tribe does now in challenges, and I'm not gonna rule them out because there's so many different types of challenges.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna say they don't have like I think they put stronger people on this tribe to almost balance Sue out, but Sue was not really the person that you needed to balance out. She's a beast. And then you gave them Kyle, and Tiana looks buff. Gabe seems good in challenges. Caroline, like we already talked about water polo, she's probably going to be fantastic in the water. I don't think we've seen a lot of her in the challenge doing a lot, but it's episode 2. I feel like for episode 2, we're talking about a lot of stuff that could happen. So it's all just thoughts for now. But honestly, for how much they've already got us thinking about it and talking about it, I feel like the content we've gotten in these 2 episodes has been fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly think a lava loss is coming. I don't think they're gonna go unbeatable in the challenges like the past dominant tribes have gone. I absolutely think the Rome vote out is happening sooner rather than later.
Inevitable. It is inevitable. And I hate that because I like Rome a lot, but it's inevitable. And I would actually love if Red went to tribal next. They're my favorite tribe on the season so far, I'd say. Rachel's my favorite player, but Red's my favorite tribe. And I think it would be awesome for them to go to tribal and then like it not just be a disaster tribe season. Like we just have an even kind of win across the board till the merge. That would be awesome. But either way it plays out, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'd love to have like another 42 in that regard, where like in that season, that was the only one of the new era where I think everything was, well, 43 had a fairly even as well. So, I mean, those 2 seasons, like it would be nice to have that again. All right. Yeah, I mean, anything else to go over, like what we think will happen next week or just how we feel?
What I think will happen next week is they really have painted Rome as this target for the Red Tribe, and I think they wouldn't be doing it this much if it wasn't coming up. Like you don't do this edit just to let him get to the merge and then they take him out. You know, it's been building up to that for a bit now, and I think the narrative has just pushed it that way. I honestly don't know what's going to happen next because the previews aren't really showing us a lot. Which is fantastic, but I don't know who a front runner could really be right now. I don't have any front runners from the edit that I would say are leading the pack in terms of who could be our winner.
Yeah, should be interesting. And my winner pick is still in. And Sam, who did you pick from your draft team again to be your winner pick?
On the Tribe of Nerds, I think I don't remember who I picked first. I picked Rome in my my draft with my friends as first, but Rachel's second, so I'm just going to say Rachel's my winner pick. Yeah. And I definitely have Rachel on our Tribe of Nerds draft, so I'm just going to say Rachel for now.
Yeah, you do. I have Rome. I think you have Rachel, Kyle. I'm trying to remember who the other two are, but Kevin lost TK, so Kevin picks up Sue now. So and I have Kashan. So now we're all even at 4 apiece, and now nobody's gonna get an extra player once we start losing people. So
yeah, I think I have Soul too. So
yeah, you have Soul.
Come on with that screen time, Soul. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, I'm very, very interested to see which of us starts losing people now, like for good.
Jake, your team's out first. We already know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very bad at picking winners. That's well known within Vanquish and Tribe Nerds. So
you're almost jinxing people you choose at this point.
Yeah, as Cameron was one of my Vanquish winner picks and second chances.
Oh, how does that play out? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. I had some bad luck with winner picks aside from myself and Austin. So
hey, gotta root for yourself, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back next week. Might be around the same time in the week or earlier in the weekend. It's going to be sometime on the weekend next week. So, with that, we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.